There's a road on the Tennessee and North Carolina line with no intersections, no driveways, and no passing zones. For most of its length, there's no cell signal either. It runs 11 miles. It's called the Tail of the Dragon. On the map, it's United States Route 129, and by the road's own count, there are 318 curves packed into those 11 miles. That works out to about 29 curves in every mile, on a stretch of pavement that only covers about 5¼ miles as the crow flies. Around 240,000 motorcyclists ride it in a year. On a good weekend in spring, 800 to 1,200 of them come through between Deals Gap, North Carolina, and the Tennessee side of the mountain. They drive in from every state in the country. They come for the curves. The entire reputation of this road is built on those curves. Ask a rider what kills people on the Dragon, and he'll tell you it's the corners, and he'll usually name one. That's what everyone thinks. The record says something else. In October of 2016, two men went off this road together, a few feet apart, down a wooded embankment below the pavement. One of them was killed. The other one lived, and he stayed down there for roughly 30 hours, unable to climb out and unable to call anyone. At some point, he took out a camera and recorded a goodbye to his family. Motorcycles ran past above his head the whole time, all weekend, on one of the most photographed 11 miles of road in America. Nobody saw him. Nobody saw either of them. Blount County, Tennessee, 1934. That's the year this road got the number it still carries. Before that, it was signed as Tennessee 72 on one side of the state line and North Carolina 288 on the other. And before that, it wasn't really a road at all. It started as a game trail worn through the Great Smoky Mountains by buffalo. The Cherokee used it for centuries. Hunters and trappers followed it in the early 1700s, and British soldiers marched up it in 1756 on their way to Fort Loudon. Somebody cut a crude wagon track through here in the early 1800s to reach the settlement at Cades Cove. By the end of the 1800s, the families who owned the land along it were charging people money to pass. There's still a bend at mile 3 called Toll Booth Corner. The road was already killing people long before anybody rode it for fun. During the Civil War, these mountains were bushwhacker country, and at mile 6½ there's a grave. It belongs to a man named Baz Shaw, killed on this road by Confederates. He's been lying beside the pavement since before the pavement existed. 160 years later, riders go past his headstone at speed on their way to a parking lot full of broken motorcycle parts, and almost none of them know it's there. Then the power companies came. A town called Calderwood went up around 1913 to house dam workers. Cheoah Dam was finished in 1917. Calderwood Dam followed in 1930. The road was improved to serve them, renumbered as United States Route 129, and paved for the first time around 1934. Not 1 foot of it was ever laid down for sport. Riders love to point out that the Dragon has no intersecting roads, no driveways, and no passing areas along its entire length. They say it like it's a feature of the ride. That's true, and it wasn't a design choice. Nothing was ever built alongside this road because there was nowhere to build. The pavement threads a gap between the river gorge and the mountain wall because that's the only place it fits. In North Carolina, it's signed as Topoco Road. In Tennessee, it's the Calderwood Highway. Deals Gap itself sits at 1,988 feet, and the road doesn't climb over the terrain so much as squeeze through it. The mountain never agreed to this road. It tolerated it. That's the part that matters when things go wrong. Because a road with no driveways is a road with no houses. A road with no intersections is a road nobody turns onto. There's no gas on it. There are no traffic lights on it. There's nothing on those 11 miles except the 11 miles. People have been calling it the Tail of the Dragon since about 1981. A man named Doug Snavely started promoting it to motorcyclists in 1992, publishing a newsletter he called the Deals Gap Hot Lap. A website went up in 2000. By the early 2000s, professional photographers were stationed in the corners with long lenses, shooting every rider who came through and selling him the picture of himself at full lean. That's the loop that built this place. You ride it, you buy the photo, you post the photo, and somebody else decides he needs to ride it. Today, the numbers are what they are, about 240,000 riders a year, 800 to 1,200 on a spring or fall weekend, more than 1,500 on a holiday weekend, 100 to 200 on a weekday in season. The bulk of them arrive between 10 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon, and the run itself takes 20 to 30 minutes. Do that arithmetic and you get the real shape of the problem. 250,000 people a year funneled onto 11 miles of two-lane mountain road, most of them inside the same 6-hour window, a great many of them riding it for the first time in their lives. 318 curves, 11 miles, about 874 feet of elevation change from one end to the other. And the corners have names, not official ones. The riders name them, which tells you something about which corners earned it. There's Gravity Cavity at mile 2.9, where the road drops out from under the front wheel. Break or Bust Bend at mile 5.3, Copperhead Corner at 5.8, Pearly Gates at 9.5. There's Hog Pen Bend, Wheelie Hell, Shade Tree Corner, Mud Corner, and Sunset Corner, which faces west and puts the low sun straight into your visor. Those aren't marketing names. Somebody found out what each of those corners does and named it for the finding. They're a warning written by the only people qualified to write one, and they've been hanging on that road for decades, in plain English, where every rider can read them on the way in. One number reframes this entire road, and almost nobody riding it believes it. Until 1992, the posted speed limit on the Dragon was 55 miles an hour. In 2005, it was cut to 30. Enforcement climbed hard after 2007, and the road now generates more than 850 citations in a typical year. In one recent year, it was 861. 30 miles an hour is a slow speed. At 30, nearly every one of those 318 curves is an easy corner. At 70, they stop being corners at all. They become walls. Lieutenant Randy Ailey of the Blount County Sheriff's Office put the failure mode about as plainly as it can be put. The problem is with speed and with people crossing the center line, he said. A lot of those curves you can't even take at that speed. They aren't dying because the corners are impossible. They're dying because they arrive at the corners going faster than the corners allow. There's a second piece of evidence about what this road can physically hold, and it doesn't involve motorcycles at all. Between 2010 and 2012, the run from the state line to the Tabcat Creek Bridge recorded 204 crashes. 6 of them were fatal. Only one of those 6 involved a tractor-trailer, but big rigs kept getting into trouble on a road with no passing zones and corners too tight to swing a trailer through, and when a truck went sideways up here, it shut the whole highway down for hours, with the ambulance on the wrong side of it. After a formal review, the Tennessee Department of Transportation banned vehicles longer than 30 feet from the mountainous section of Route 129 in Blount County. Think about what that decision actually says. The state looked at this road, looked at a class of vehicle that drives every other highway in America without incident, and concluded that this 11 miles couldn't safely accommodate it. Then it left the road open to a 200-pound motorcycle with a first-time rider on it. Put a low-side crash on an ordinary suburban road at 40 miles an hour. You go down, you slide, you tear up a jacket and a set of levers and your pride, and you stand up and make a phone call. On a street with houses, somebody is watching from a window before you stop moving. Take that exact same crash and put it on the outside of Break or Bust Bend. The impact is identical. What changes is where you stop. There's no shoulder on the Dragon. There's guardrail in some places and nothing at all in others. And on the outside of a lot of those corners, the ground simply leaves. You go over the edge into trees and rhododendron, down a slope, and you come to rest below the level of the pavement. Once you're down there, you're invisible. Cars and bikes pass above you at 30 miles an hour and see leaves. You aren't lying on a road, you're lying under one, in the Great Smoky Mountains, in a green wall that closes over the top of you. And now, run the clock forward. Your motorcycle is somewhere in the brush, possibly not visible from the pavement either, because a bike that goes over an edge keeps going. Your phone, if you can reach it, has no bars on it. You can hear engines above you, which means you know exactly how many people are passing and how completely none of them can hear you over their own exhaust. You can shout. Nobody riding a motorcycle at 30 miles an hour hears anything. The mountain doesn't have to do anything else at that point. It only has to stay quiet. The number that actually decides whether you live on this road isn't 318. It's the response time. Larry Hembry, who directs emergency services in Graham County, North Carolina, has described what it takes to reach somebody out here. There are some places it takes us 25, 30, 35 minutes just to get to the patient after they call 911, he said, and then have to come back to town to go to a hospital. That hospital is about 45 minutes away. Hembry has also named the standard everybody in his line of work is trained to. We're all taught the golden hour, he said. Try to get the patients treated within an hour's time. A retired firefighter in the same area said it with less diplomacy. The bad part about it is that help is 35 to 40 minutes away. You can bleed out. Graham County runs 2 ambulances, 2 for the whole county. Behind them are a pair of volunteer rescue units with lower levels of training if they happen to be available. There are 3 helicopter landing pads spread across the area, one at the Emergency Services headquarters, one near the county line, one below Fontana Dam. Roughly 87 people a year get flown out of here to Knoxville or to Asheville. The Tennessee side leans on volunteers too. Blount County deputies patrol the Dragon 4 or 5 days a week through the tourist season from 9 in the morning until dark, and from May through October, the Blount County Rescue Squad parks a truck out on the road on weekends and waits. That squad is staffed entirely by volunteers. It doesn't charge anybody for a rescue. It runs on donations. That's the safety net under 240,000 riders a year. Deputies on a schedule, a volunteer truck on the weekend, and 2 ambulances 35 minutes out. But here's the detail that everyone riding in misses. Every one of those clocks starts when somebody calls. On 11 miles with no signal, at the bottom of an embankment, nobody is calling. October 15th, 2016. 2 riders, Philip Polito and Kevin Diepenbrock, running Route 129. Polito braked. Diepenbrock hit the back of his motorcycle. Both bikes and both men went off the road and down the embankment. Polito was killed. Diepenbrock survived the impact with 2 punctured lungs, 12 ribs broken in 17 places, 2 fractures in his spine, and road rash over most of the rest of him. He couldn't climb the slope, he couldn't get a signal, he couldn't be seen from the pavement, and he could hear traffic going by above him. So he took out a camera and started recording a message for his family. He listed the bones he thought were broken. He asked them to take care of his dogs. He apologized, more than once, for being out there at all. "Just wanted to say I love you guys," he said. "Sorry I was being stupid, but you know that's what I do." He believed he was going to die at the bottom of that embankment. By every number in this story, he should have. He was down there for roughly 30 hours. The crash happened on a Saturday morning. It wasn't discovered until about 1 o'clock the following afternoon. That's a full October weekend on the tail of the Dragon. Hundreds of riders coming through, photographers stationed in the corners, and for more than a day, nobody knew two men were lying below the road. There was no search because nobody knew to search. What ended it was a woman riding past who heard a man calling from somewhere under the pavement and went for help. A local rider named Josh Johnson climbed down the slope and reached him. Philip Polito had been dead the entire time, a few feet away. That's the thing this road does that the corner names never tell you. On the Dragon, the wreck isn't what kills you, the weight is. Saturday, June 12, 2021, just before 7 in the evening. Luke Hutzel, 18 years old, from Maryville, Tennessee, riding north on United States Route 129. Troopers said he crossed the center line and struck an oncoming motorcyclist. He died at the scene. He wasn't the tourist. Maryville is a short drive from the north end of the road. He'd ridden the Dragon before. He knew those corners the way you know a road you grew up next to, which is its own kind of dangerous. Lieutenant Ailey has a line about the people who die out here. There are a lot of people from out of town who think it's an area they can drive however they want, like a racetrack, he said. He's right. He's also describing only half of the dead. Tuesday, May 20th, 2026, 11:49 in the morning. Eduardo Falcone, 59 years old, and Mariano Maldondo, 55, both from Florida, were riding a Harley-Davidson trike southbound near mile marker 5. The Tennessee Highway Patrol said Falcone failed to maintain his lane coming up on a sharp curve. The trike ran off the roadway, struck an embankment, and came back partly into the northbound lane. Both men were wearing helmets. Both men died. Troopers noted these were the first two deaths of the year on the tail of the Dragon. 11:49 on a Tuesday morning in May. Not a rally weekend, not midnight, not a crowd. Two men in their 50s on a three-wheeled touring machine, which is about as far from a race bike as a motorcycle gets. The road doesn't check what you're riding. It doesn't check how old you are, or how carefully you've lived, or how many years you've been doing this. It checks whether you're still in your lane when the pavement turns. June of 2026, 12:38 in the morning. Jeremy Gambrell, 52 years old, was riding a 2006 Harley-Davidson on the tail of the Dragon when a deer came into the roadway in front of him. He hit it. He died. Every case up to this one involves a rider doing something. Braking too hard, crossing a line, carrying more speed into a corner than the corner would take. There's a version of this story where you tell yourself none of it applies to you because you're careful and you ride within yourself and you've been on two wheels since you were 16. This one takes that away. midnight, on a road with no lighting, walled in on both sides, where you can't see past the next rock face and there's nowhere to go when something steps out of it. Jeremy Gambrell didn't do anything wrong. He was only there. You don't have to make a mistake on this road. You only have to be on it. The Dragon doesn't restrict itself to killing riders either. Sunday, November 6, 2022, around 12:18 in the afternoon, a rider on a borrowed Yamaha R6 lost the front end and went into the brush alongside Route 129. He walked away without a scratch. His motorcycle didn't. The bike caught fire where it landed, in dry leaf litter, and he couldn't lift it and couldn't put it out. Great Smoky Mountains National Park described what happened next in about as flat a sentence as you'll ever read. The motorcycle lost control and collided into the roadside, park officials wrote. Upon collision, the motorcycle was engulfed in flames which ignited the wildfire. Low humidity and fresh, dry leaf fall did the rest. The fire burned roughly 177 acres of the Great Smoky Mountains. Roads in the area stayed closed until 6 o'clock that Tuesday evening. One rider, uninjured, fell off his motorcycle and set 177 acres of national park on fire. Put the record together, and the shape of it is very consistent. From 2011 through 2016, this 11-mile stretch averaged about 95 crashes a year. 708 vehicles were involved across those years. 545 of them were motorcycles. 16 people were killed, and 14 of those 16 were riders or their passengers. 2017 ran worse. By the 10th of October that year, there had already been 143 crashes, and 4 people were dead. Across 2020 and 2021, the Tennessee side of the road logged 165 crashes and 9 people killed. On the North Carolina side, over roughly the same window, there were another 17 wrecks, and a third of those left somebody seriously hurt. More than half of everything in those 2 years involved a motorcycle. Going further back, roughly 37 people have been killed on this stretch of road since the year 2000. The riders who follow the Dragon closely keep their own tally, and their count puts 2024 at 112 crashes, 47 injuries, and 5 deaths. Those same trackers put the long-run average at somewhere around 1 or 2 deaths a year, and then they put 2021 at 8. Those rider-kept figures aren't official, and they disagree with each other year to year. So take them as a range and not a hard number. The direction they point isn't in dispute. That's the pattern that ought to bother you most, actually. This road doesn't kill at a steady rate. It goes quiet for a season and everybody relaxes, and then it takes 8. Somewhere between 1 and 8 people a year die on 11 miles of road, and the 11 miles never change. Whatever picture you have in your head of the person who dies on the tail of the Dragon, it's probably wrong. It's a 59-year-old on a trike with a passenger at lunchtime on a Tuesday. It's a 52-year-old on a Harley who met a deer at midnight. It's an 18-year-old who lived 20 minutes up the road. It's 2 men on the Saturday in October who never got the chance to tell anybody where they were. The concentration is real and it's measurable. A study in 2013 found that Graham County, North Carolina, had a crash rate per registered motorcycle running about 17 times the statewide average, and more than 4 times the rate of neighboring Swain County. Graham County crews answered 127 motorcycle wrecks in 2016 across the Dragon and the nearby Cherahalla Skyway, and 71 the year after that. None of this is hidden. The speed limit is posted. The corner names are published. The response times are a matter of public record. This road has been telling the truth about itself in plain sight for 40 years. It's the riders who keep deciding the truth applies to somebody else. At the North Carolina end of the road, in the parking lot of the Deals Gap Motorcycle Resort, there's a tree. Riders started hanging pieces of wrecked motorcycles on it sometime in the 1980s, and it's been filling up ever since. Fairings, levers, mirrors, foot pegs, turn signals, whole sections of bodywork. The ritual is specific. You sign the broken part, you write the date on it, you carry it up to the front counter, and somebody hangs it on the tree for you. They call it the Tree of Shame. and people laugh in front of it and take pictures with it, and they're allowed to, because every single piece hanging there belongs to somebody who walked away. That's the whole point of the thing. The tree is made entirely of survivors. The ones who didn't survive aren't on it. There's nothing to bring in. And that list from the beginning reads differently on the way out than it did on the way in. No intersections, no driveways, no passing zones, no signal. Riders hear that list as freedom. Read it again at the bottom of an embankment, and it's an inventory of everything that isn't there when you need it. Luke Hutzel's mother is named Lisa. Before he died, Luke told her that if anything ever happened to him on the Dragon, she should know he died doing something he loved. He was 18 years old when he said it. It wasn't a premonition. It's the sentence every rider on that road says to somebody at some point, because it's the sentence that makes the ride possible, and almost every time, it costs nothing to say it. Then, on a Saturday evening in June, just before 7 o'clock, on the tail of the Dragon, it turned into the only thing his mother had left to hold.